Good morning, everyone. It's me, Rajika. I'm here again to talk about juvenile justice. I'm here to talk about the Lindsay versus Quebec civil lawsuit. But today I'm going to be talking about corporate extraction, contextual distortion, and really the protection of the status quo through investigative reporting in Canada. So buckle up. This is going to be a long one. But I have produced all the evidence for you to see exactly what W5's demand for justice looks like. So let's check it out. So the first thing you need to know is that major networks do not uncover institutional atrocities. They harvest them. They wait until independent researchers spend decades doing the heavy lifting, building the trust, and gathering all the proof. But then they sweep in, they strip it of context, they censor the hardest truths, and they sell it all back to us in a sanitized story. So I started tracking juvenile justice and Shawbridge specifically in 1998. That was the first year that I plugged the Shawbridge Boys Farm into Yahoo. And in those following years, I published my book and I brought this story to many reporters, investigative reporters, including CBC, CTV, and here you see Matsumi and I have had many conversations over the years, and I was a guest on her book club in 2014. But even though they never missed it, they met systemic child abuse with complete indifference. So when W5 and Kevin O'Keefe showed up, wanting access to my work, to the plaintiff survivor group that I adminned, well, I actively resisted because I already knew the risks of letting a corporate broadcast tell our stories and the high stakes survivor narratives that we had. But I'm going to show you what all this conversation with Kevin O'Keefe led to. The first thing I want you to notice here is that he contacted me at my book website. And with this email here, you see that I wasn't the only one that was resistant to speaking to him. Just for some context here, this was the height of the pandemic. I had been administrating the group since October of 2019. I'd already removed Gillian Cosgrove from the group, as well as Michelle Gongreau. But I want you to pay attention here to who Heard and Cosgrove Communications actually is. So Heard Cosgrove Communications specializes in highly discreet corporate advisory services, reputation management, and crisis control for CEOs and senior boards. But have a look at the way that she handles the reputation of W5 and Sandy Ronaldo. But if you watched the W5 episode of Demand for Justice, you'll recognize these characters. They were all interviewed during the episode. And what all of these people have in common was that they were members of the plaintiff group. That said, I want to talk about Leith Hamilton. So there was a lot of resistance in the group, but Leith was actually supportive of the W5 reporting. And when he saw my resistance in the group, he got his lifelong friend, Victor Malarick, to give me a call personally. After that call, there was some delicate negotiations within the group, but I started doing Zoom meetings, and there was a lot going on in those months that I practiced with the group, because I knew it would be challenging to get a group of older alumni together and technically all on the same night to have a formal interview. One significant thing that happened was that Leith left the group. He was recognized as a social worker by some of the alumni plaintiffs. That made him uncomfortable, and so he left. But not before he dropped this comment. I wouldn't know about being professionally erased until months later. But from this, you can see that Leith knew the script start to finish. He had been sending the old boys of Weardale to me for over a year. Darlene also had left the group, stating I had breached her privacy and blocked me. Eleanor didn't even last a month in the plaintiff group before she left, worried I was stealing her story. So it wouldn't be until the February 2021 airing of W5's Demand for Justice that I would learn the full extent of how I had been used, lied to, how my research had been extracted, and how the trust that I had built within the plaintiff group really began to deteriorate until I would finally opt out of the lawsuit altogether in June of 2023.
W5 set up a virtual town hall with a cross-section of victims like Ellie, Darlene, and Keith,
I was shocked when there was no mention of the months I spent preparing the group. So I was even more stunned when I saw myself for the first time. No name, no mention of Slave to the Farm, despite being published 8 years earlier and completely on topic. And I'll remind you that it was through my Slave to the Farm website that Kevin O'Keefe contacted me. So we've taken a look at how they extracted my labor and my work institutionally. And now let's talk about how they distort and take things out of context.
How many of you ended up in detention because of family issues like abuse or neglect? A show of hands, please.
I found this really telling. So as you can see, not everybody has their hand up. So my next question would be, why were you placed under protection if you weren't in a neglectful home?
I'm trying to wrap my head around why young people, because when you went into these homes, you could have been as young as 8 or 9 or 10 years old and there until you're 18. Why would people who were there to ostensibly take care of you mistreat you this way?
This question infuriated me. Why would you ask victims to speak to the motivations of their abusers? Really, it's cloaked victim blaming, and a question that leads to absolutely nowhere. This too, the use of just historic photographs when they could have taken modern photographs. Children are in these places today, but this just, allows for this comfortable padding for the public. Yeah.
How many of you were locked up in solitary confinement?
This was the most compelling moment of the whole interview, and they didn't show our answer, because what you would have seen is every hand in every box go up. I have 2 questions. How is the response to that not admissible in a court of law? And secondly, explain to me how not showing the public isn't protecting the status quo. Despite opting out myself, I encourage anyone who was placed under youth protection in the province of Quebec between 1950 and present to contact Lev and his team. I wasn't completely unseen. One kind soul wrote to Kevin to complain that Slave to the Farm wasn't featured at all, and this was his response.